Folks, welcome back to the Old Soul Millennial channel. You know, it's always a happy day when you can pick up a new tool and think to yourself, man, this is going to save me a lot of time, energy, and frustration in the future. And that's exactly what I'm thinking. What do I have here? I have a brand new brushless Makita oscillating tool. This model in particular is the XMT04ZB. So in today's video, first we're going to talk about some common applications I can think of and which one would maybe want to use an oscillating tool or find it handy. Then we're going to go over the exact features of this tool, and then finally we're going to put this tool to the test. We're going to cut through some wood, maybe some copper, and some steel. Yes, steel. I have some carbide tipped cutting blades that state they can cut through steel and stainless steel. I'm not going to chance it on stainless steel because I don't want to ruin my blade right away. But we're going to see what this unit can actually do. So what do I do for a living? Well, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. I do a little bit of everything, a little bit of carpentry work, like plumbing, automotive work, flooring installation, you know, whatever I need to do to pay the bills. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Now, in the past, when I've had a job in which I really needed an oscillating tool, I call up my father-in-law and say, hey, can I borrow your cheap plug-in Harbor Freight oscillating tool? He said, yeah, absolutely. Just make sure you buy some new blades. Well, I guess he got sick of me asking to borrow his oscillating tool, and he finally said, you know what, let me just buy this kid a new oscillating tool, Makita, brushless, which is what I wanted. You know, they make brush versions, but the brushless, although it's probably double the cost of the brush version, this is a tool that the professional really should have, and being that it's brushless, you know, it's probably going to last forever. Now, being the handyman that I am, let me talk about some instances in which I think this tool is going to be really handy. For one, cutting into drywall, right? In the past, I've used a razor to score the area of the drywall that I need to open up, and then I'd use a punch saw and then just saw out the drywall. Sometimes it takes two hands. With an oscillating tool, it's just a time saver and an energy saver. You know, you just plunge this into the drywall, saw right down, have your other hand hold the vacuum, collect all the dust. It's just going to be a lot cleaner and a lot quicker. So cutting into drywall, I think it's going to be very handy. I've also been replacing a lot of toilets lately. So toilets are held onto the flange with flange bolts, right? So they stick up the bottom of the toilet and there's caps that go over those bolts. Only trouble is sometimes those bolts are so long and you have to cut them all. Often they're breakaway bolts, but sometimes they're not breakaway bolts and you have to get in there with a hacksaw. So, you know, you're kind of hunched over the toilet awkwardly trying to saw off those bolts with a low profile hacksaw like this. Let me tell you, hacksawing those flange bolts off is a pain in the neck, and it's really awkward being hunched over like that. However, having an oscillating tool with a carbide tipped blade, big time saver, and it's going to be a lot less strenuous. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how well it does with flange bolts. I've installed a few vinyl floors lately, and when you're installing vinyl floors, it's important to make everything look really clean, right? Sometimes the door casing sits too low and you can't slide the vinyl underneath the casing. So what do? You have to cut that casing. How do you cut it? Well, you lay down a sacrificial piece of vinyl, use that as kind of like a height gauge, and you take your blade from your oscillating tool and you just plunge it into the bottom of the casing. After you cut your casing, then you can figure out how you need to slide your vinyl underneath the casing. But I mean, if you want the job to look any kind of professional, it's pretty much a must. You know, you're not going to make a cut to make it match the exact profile of the casing. That's just nuts. So an oscillating tool for an application like that is an absolute must. I'll be sure to include a picture of what it should look like when it's all complete. Final job I want to share with you real quick that really sold me on these oscillating tools. I was replacing a drain on a kitchen sink. So these drains, you know, sit in the bottom of the sink, and there's a threaded portion that sits underneath the sink, and there's a nut that compresses the drain onto the sink. Well, I guess a little bit of water snuck by the bottom of that drain, or whether there was some galvanic corrosion or something, but that nut had seized itself on the threaded portion of the drain. And I was unable to get that off. I tried everything, huge pipe wrenches, 18-inch channel locks, just nothing would take it off. And thankfully, there was a painter at the job site that day, and he had an oscillating tool with a carbide tipped blade. And he was able to get under there, cut that nut off, and ultimately free up that drain. You know, this is the type of tool that you just always keep in your toolbox no matter what kind of small or big job you're going to do, because chances are you will come into some type of situation that day in which you wish you had an oscillating tool. So without further ado, let's get into the features of this tool. So again, we have the Makita XMT04ZB. This is an 18-volt brushless oscillating tool. Retails for around $250 on the Home Depot website right now. Total weight, 3.7 pounds, variable speed, and the variable speed is adjusted with this control dial on the lower part of the tool near where the battery connects. Then you have the basic on-off switch. And the RPMs on this tool adjust between 10,000 to 20,000 OPM, oscillations per minute. This tool does have soft start, so when you throw that on switch, it gradually comes on, which that I think is a nice feature. There is an LED light hidden in front of the tool, which it's nice when you're working straight on, but you know, when you have your blade off to the side, you know, the light throw is still straight ahead, so it's good, but it could be improved slightly. Now, as for what type of blades this tool accepts, it accepts the Starlock, Starlock Plus, or Starlock Max blades or bits. I'm gonna call them blades. And this tool also comes with a 3-year warranty from the date of purchase. All right, I have a hardwood blade that I want to install on this tool. How do you do it? Well, look for the silver lever. You want to sneak a finger in there. Just open up the lever until you hear a click. From there, you can turn the tool face up, and there is a pin that pulls out, and you would install your blade whatever position you want. I mean, you could position this in basically any position here, you know, 360 degrees. We'll start with straight ahead. Reinsert the pin, and then just push this lock lever back against the tool, and we are locked in. Let's install a battery. Real nice fit. I'm going to turn the tool on. I'm going to have it turned down all the way to start. I'm going to have it on setting 1. It's extremely quiet. And that is 6. So I'm going to start the tool on speed setting 6 right now, and this is when you can really hear the soft start feature. Gradually comes on. Let me get my decibel meter and we'll see how loud this tool actually is. So as I talk to you, my decibel meter, you know, bounces around 75 decibels. So when I turn this tool on the highest setting, setting 6, let's see how high the meter goes. .89 decibels, and on the top here, I'm not sure if you saw that, but it said safe level. Topping out at about 90 decibels. Let's turn it down to setting 1. .78 decibels. Very quiet. As mentioned a moment ago, you know, I have a small issue with the LED light only throwing forward. You know, it'd be nice if it kind of broadcasted around the whole area of the tool. Like if I turn it on, it's straight ahead. You throw this blade off to the side, you know, you're not going to have any light off to the side. So it'd be nice if they had some kind of improvement to that, especially for a tool that retails for $250. But it's nice that they have a light nonetheless. All right, let's try cutting through this 2x4. So I have the speed setting turned all the way up to 6, which should be 20,000 OPM. We're gonna cut about halfway through this 2x4, and once I get about halfway, I'm gonna reposition the tool to cut with the grain, and we'll plunge in and cut out this little corner here. Wow. So I will say, when I first started to cut through, I wasn't really pushing the tool. And then once I got through maybe a quarter of the way here, I really started pushing the tool. And let me tell you, this thing can really cut. In fact, I'm going to cut again a little bit to the left here, but this time I'm really going to push the tool forward and we'll see how well it performs. Very impressive. I'm going to put a mask on because it's getting a little bit dusty. Wow. Very powerful. Alright, so I removed the wood cutting blade and I've swapped that over for the metal cutting blade. This is apparently carbide tipped. I positioned a piece of copper in my benchtop vise. I'm going to turn the speed down here. I'm going to turn it down to setting 1. And let's see what it does trying to cut through this piece of copper. So definitely a bit slow, a bit jerky, kind of hard to control. I'm gonna turn the speed up to, we'll turn it up to 4, see if that makes a difference. I'm gonna do a new cut too. So it'll do it. Definitely a bit of vibration, little bit of jerkiness. Let's try it one more time on speed setting 6. So it'll do it. Again, a bit jerky, not the smoothest operation, but it'll do it. So I do have an extra toilet flange bolt hanging around. You know, there's a spot that doesn't have threads. Normally, if they're breakaway bolts, the metal gets a lot thinner. It's not really too thin here. I'd imagine they kind of left this spot bare, so it's a little bit easier to start a hacksaw. So let's put this in the vise, and we'll try and cut through this section with no threads. See how well it does. All right, we're gonna try it speed 6 again, carbide tip blade. See how it goes. I'd say it cut through that bolt like a dream. So much easier than using that low profile hacksaw. Let's give it another go. That is so much easier than using a hacksaw. So after running this tool for about 10 minutes, what are my initial impressions? Well, let's go over each material that we cut through. So starting with the wood, I was really impressed with how it just chewed right through the wood. Of course, having a brand new sharp blade is gonna be key, but you saw the performance of this tool. Went through it really quickly, had a ton of power, low vibration. So anytime you're going through wood or soft materials such as plastic, this thing is just gonna perform like you would expect it to perform. Really wonderful tool when it comes to wood. Now, as for the copper, we switched over to that carbide tipped metal cutting blade. I was a little bit disappointed. I thought it was gonna bite into that copper a little bit sooner. There was a bit of vibration, had a bit of a hard time chewing into the copper. Maybe it's because I didn't have it secured very well in my bench vise, but I was expecting it to do a little bit better of a job. I was expecting the performance to be a little bit better, but mind you, this isn't a bandsaw, it's simply an oscillating tool, so I guess it's behaving like an oscillating tool would do. Now, as for the toilet flange bolt, which I plan to use this tool for cutting toilet flange bolts in the future, it did a really nice job. You know, it got through this bolt in what, 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, so it is so much easier than using a low profile hacksaw. So this tool is not perfect at everything, but it will do just about everything you need it to do, if that makes sense. I think that's basically how it would sum it up. But vibration wise, you know, when you're cutting through metallic objects, there's definitely gonna be more vibration than when you'd be cutting through soft materials like wood or plastic. Plenty of power. It's really nice that you have that variable speed trigger. Feels really nice in the hand. You know, pretty well balanced. You know, the balance point is pretty much right in the middle of the tool. Comfortable, you know, one-handed operation. Again, my small complaint, I wish the light throw was more like a 180-degree pattern versus straight ahead. You know, oftentimes you're cutting door casings, you know, you're cutting in dark areas, so having some light output on either side would have been a nice touch. Maybe that's something they could improve on in the future. But aside from that, just really ergonomic tool, lightweight, quiet, and I'm really happy to add it to the arsenal. So that's a tool review. Thanks for watching. Any questions, drop a comment. Be happy to answer. Catch you on the next one.